So right now, you know how to build web page. You can add text, you can add images, videos, and even forms. You can also create forms in your website, but your code still looks like a beginner code. Today, we are going to change that because in this lesson, you will learn how professional developers structure real websites. Welcome back. If you have made it this far, you are doing something powerful. You are building these skills step by step. Now let's level up our HTML skills. Right now, most of your page probably look like this. Let me see. I'm going to move this form that we have here so that we'll be able to learn what we want to do today. So let me just shrink this and let me remove all this. So I'm just going to give you a little example here. I'm going to add a H1. I'm going to say my website. Then I'll have a paragraph here. I'm going to say welcome. Welcome to my page. I just want to have this here. Then I'll have another div here. In here, I'm just going to do the same thing. I'll have an H2. Let me say about. Then I'll have a paragraph here. Let me call this some text here. So I just want to give you a little example. So now, most of our website is looking like this right now, where you just have a div in your body, H1, H2 paragraph. This is how some of your website are looking right now. You can see now that this here is working. This website up here actually is working here, but there's a problem because this code here have no meaning. The browser here is seeing this structure, but it's not understanding what each section mean. It's not understanding what each section mean. It's not understanding what each section represents. Good developers don't just write code that works. They write code that communicates. Now we are going to move into semantic HTML. We are going to know what semantic HTML means and how we are going to use it and how we are going to be applying semantic HTML in our page for it to have meaning. Semantic HTML means using tags that clearly describe their purpose. It clearly describes its meaning to both the browser and the developer. That's just what semantic HTML means. Instead of using div like this in semantic HTML, you can use things like header, you can use things like nav, you can use things like main, or section, or footer. That's just the things that semantic HTML provide for us to use so that our page will have meaning. The browser will see meaning, be able to understand the purpose of each section. You see, many websites contains HTML code like div. You can choose to put. You can maybe somebody will say you can also explain his page. You can choose to use ID. Maybe this is your header. You can choose to use ID header. Maybe here too you do the same thing. You can choose to do ID about, and you can create another one. You can choose to call it ID footer. You can choose to do that. But you see, in HTML, there are several semantic elements that can be used to define different parts of a web page. And why this semantic HTML matter? Because they give better readability, they provide easier maintenance, they improve accessibility and better SEO. SEO is search engine optimization. So you can see that now, we're just going to move straight into semantic HTML and we're going to be taking them one by one. I'm going to give you some popular semantic HTML you're going to be using and how to structure your website. Now, the first one I want to give you here is the header. Now, for example, here I'm just going to clear this up and we're going to look at this semantic HTML one after the other. The first one here is header. Now, the header is the top section of your website. In your header now, you have your logo. In your header, you have your title. In your header, you also have your navigation bars in your header, inside your header. So this header now is the top section of your website. The second one we have is your nav. Nav tag is just like this. You can see this nav tag contains navigation links. You can choose to have links like, let me see, you can choose to say href. Let me just put it like this for now. You can choose to have your home link. the same thing. You can choose to have your about link. You can see this nav bar is used. You just use this nav bar to have your navigation links. That's what this nav bar is saying. Anywhere you use this nav bar, the browser understand that in here now is where your navigation links lives. That's just what the nav tag is doing. Now also have the main tag like this. Now, this main tag is the main content of your page. Each page should have one main section. And one thing you should know is that each website you are creating should have only one main section. Now, semantic HTML gives meaning to your website, but you don't want to misuse all the semantic HTML tag. Your website will have only one main section. This is the main content of your page. We also have section. You can also have section like this. Also have a section tag. This section groups related content together. So you can have multiple sections in your page. You can have a card section. You can have another section inside your main. You can have multiple sections inside your main. So these sections just group related content together. And we also have article. Also have another semantic HTML called article. So this article is used for independent content. For example, your blog post or your news article. This article, you just use it when you are trying to put an independent content in your web page. So that's where you use article for. Now, in the bottom line, we also have footer. Then when we get into the practical, we are going to be doing this a lot. I'm going to be calling, let's create our header, let's create our nav bar, let's create our footer, let's work on our main. That's when you're going to understand why this semantic HTML is important. It gives meaning to your website. You can see now that the bottom section here is called footer. It's used for your contact info, your copyright, your links. That's where you use footer for. Now, we are going to build a simple website with all this semantic HTML to give meaning into it and for you to also understand better. Firstly, we are going to start with our header. Let me just clear this up. Let's do them again. You can see now that we have this. First, we are going to start the header. Every page should start with a header. This is the top part of a page, just like I've explained to you. So in the header now, I'm going to have an H1. I'm just going to say Vicent's website. So as simple as this. This is my header. I'm going to have navigations. So I'm going to have my nav. In my nav now, I want to have let me just put this link like this. In my nav now, I want to have my home. I will say home. I will say about. Then contact. Contact. So this is my nav. And after my nav here, I want to have my main content, the main content of my page. Now in the main content of my page now, I want to have different sections inside this main content of my page. So I'm just going to say section. So the first section I'm going to have here is going to be H2. And let me say about me. I'm going to have a paragraph here that just say little thing. Let me just say I am learning full stack web development. So very simple like this. Now this is my first section. I want to have another section again in here. And let me call this and let me give this an H2. Let me say my goals. And let me also put a paragraph. I'll just say to become a professional, become a professional developer. So you can see now, my goal here is to become a professional developer. Now I'm going to have a footer. Just like I explained to you, we are going to have a footer, and now our footer will be outside of this main, which is the last. We are going to say footer, which I said is the bottom part of our web page. So now in our footer, I'm just going to copy the copyright symbol, like say copyright logo, and use it inside here. Don't worry, in our next section, I'm going to show you how we can create this ourselves. But for now, you can see now I just copy it and paste it inside here. I will say 2026 Vincent. So you can see now that we have a copyright at 2026 Vincent. So this is now how a browser look. You can see now that we have our header, we have our navigations, we have the first section which is about me. I'll have another section here which is my goals. Then we'll have our footer under here. So this is how a page look. Now look at your code. This is how we developers structure their website. If I just bring this down a little bit, you can see now that our page have meaning. When a developer sending his code like this, you should understand what everything is doing here. Our head, our navigation, our main. Inside our main, we have two sections: the about me section and my go section. Then lastly here we have our footer. So this is how you should structure your page. This is what Semantic HTML bring into our website. Make us give meaning to our website. And one thing I want to tell you is that the div is not useless. The div, you can see here now, I'm not using any div here in my page, but the div is not useless. You use the div when there is no meaningful semantic tag available. Maybe for example, I have an element I want to still put in my header. Maybe I want to put declare an element here and edit it to have something here. I can just use my div to add that. So you use div when there's no semantic HTML available. Now, in this lesson, you learned how to structure your website like a professional. You are no longer just writing HTML, you are organizing it in a way that makes sense. But there are still a few small things missing, the little details that makes your website feel complete. In the next video, you will learn how to make your website look more professional and how to handle special character properly so your code doesn't break. I will see you in the next lesson.